Hello and welcome. Today, author R.T. Cagle shares another inspiring story from the Bedtime Stories with Heart and Soul series, written to help you slow down, reflect, and end the day with a little more peace. Now, here's the author.
Hello, my name is author R.T. Cagles. Today's story is called The Legend of Billy Ryder. So, let's get started. Long ago, before surf competitions and modern beach culture, there was a quiet stretch of the California coastline known only to a few daring souls. It was a rugged, windy shore near the cliffs of Santa Lucia, and to locals, it was simply known as the Break. Waves swelled large and rolled fierce, too menacing for even the bravest to dare ride. The Break was legendary for its size, fury, and unpredictable nature. But then came Billy Ryder. No one knew much about Billy's past, though everyone had heard tales. Some said he was born in a fishing village and raised by the sea. Others claimed he came from the East, a drifter who had hitchhiked his way to California, trading stories and songs for a place to sleep along the way. But the story everyone seemed to agree on was that Billy Ryder lived to surf. To those who were there that fateful year, Billy Ryder was something else. He had a long mane of sun-bleached hair that fell around his shoulders, and skin tanned a deep copper from years spent under the sun. He walked with a quiet confidence, barefoot over rocks and hot sand, never bothered by the chill or the heat. They said he had eyes like the sky before a storm, pale and piercing, and when he spoke, his voice was low and gravelly, as if it came from the depths of the ocean itself. Word of the Break had traveled up and down the coast, bringing daring surfers to Santa Lucia to test their skill. Most paddled out, took one look at the towering waves, and drifted back to shore, humbled. But Billy? Billy Ryder saw those waves and grinned. One foggy morning, the beach was buzzing with chatter. Locals and travelers alike lined the shore, their eyes fixed on the horizon. They knew today would be different. Today the Break was in its rarest, most terrifying form. The waves surged, towering and powerful, each one thundering down like a falling building. Billy stood alone at the water's edge, his surfboard at his side. He took a deep breath, savoring the scent of salt and freedom, then stepped into the churning sea. As he paddled out, whispers floated across the crowd. "He's crazy," someone murmured. "No one can handle the Break like that." But Billy didn't care about whispers or legends. The ocean was his realm, and today he would make it his own. The first wave rose up behind him, casting a shadow over the water as if the sky had darkened. Billy paddled harder, his arms cutting through the water with practiced ease, and as the wave crested, he stood up, perfectly balanced, and dropped down its face. The crowd gasped as they watched him cut through the water with impossible grace, leaning into every turn with a precision that defied belief. He seemed to dance with the wave, a fearless, fluid motion that no one had ever seen before. It was as if he were born from the water. A part of the wave itself, bending and twisting, his board an extension of his body. Wave after wave, Billy Ryder rode them all, conquering the Break like no one had dared. He became the legend the coast had whispered about, the man who tamed the untamable. Surfers from every stretch of the shore began making pilgrimages to see him, hoping to catch a glimpse of the one they called the Sea Spirit. But Billy was more than a surfer. He was a mystery. Sometimes he would vanish for weeks, disappearing without a trace, only to reappear on a dawn-lit beach, his eyes calm and his board ready. Locals said he spent his time on remote islands, communing with spirits or learning ancient secrets of the sea. Others said he lived with dolphins, learning their ways to become more at one with the water. No one knew for sure, but each story made him more of a legend, more mythical than man. One summer, a storm unlike any seen before swept across the coast. It raged for 3 days and nights, tearing up beaches and flooding towns. The sea churned in a fury, and the waves at the Break grew larger than ever, crashing with a force that shook the earth. People huddled in their homes, afraid to go near the water. But on the morning of the 4th day, when the storm finally began to die, Billy appeared on the beach. Word spread fast. And soon, people were gathering, braving the last gusts of wind to see what Billy would do. They knew he wouldn't let a storm be his undoing. For hours, he stood on the shore watching the waves. The ocean was wild and untamed, and even seasoned fishermen and surfers warned him against going out. But Billy had a glint in his eye, a fierce, determined look that no one could dissuade. He picked up his board, now weathered from countless battles with the sea, and started into the water. The waves towered above him, rising like mountains, but he paddled out, undeterred, until he was just a speck against the vast, stormy horizon. The first wave came, larger than any he'd ever ridden. Billy dropped into it, riding its crest with the same poise and grace he always had, though the force was greater and the stakes higher than ever. The crowd watched in awe as he twisted and turned, carving the water with a strength and elegance no one could match. But then, the sea let loose a monstrous roar as the largest wave yet rose behind him, casting a shadow over the entire beach. It was a wave unlike any ever seen, a wall of water so high it seemed to touch the clouds. Even Billy Ryder faltered for a moment, his eyes widening at the sheer size of it. For a second, he looked back at the shore, a glimmer of uncertainty flashing across his face. But then, with a deep breath, he squared his shoulders and turned to meet the wave. The crowd held its breath as he paddled forward, his figure dwarfed by the giant wall of water. And then, in a single swift motion, he was up, balanced, his body moving in harmony with the ocean's power. The wave crashed around him, but Billy rode it like he had ridden every wave before, fearless and free. For a moment, he seemed invincible, gliding down the wave's face, his board skimming across the surface like a knife. But then, in a flash, the wave closed in on him, swallowing him whole. The crowd gasped, their eyes scanning the water, waiting for Billy to resurface. But he didn't. Minutes passed and the beach was silent. The waves crashed and the sea settled, but Billy Ryder was nowhere to be seen. People searched the shore, hoping he had somehow made it to safety, but there was no sign of him. The man who had conquered the break was gone. In the days that followed, people mourned the loss of Billy Ryder. They told stories of his bravery, his skill, and his unwavering spirit. Surfers from far and wide came to the break, leaving flowers and shells in the sand, as a tribute to the legend who had ridden the wildest waves of all. But some say Billy Ryder never really left. They say that on certain misty mornings, when the waves are high and the fog is thick, you can still see him out there, riding the break as if nothing had changed. Surfers speak of a mysterious figure who appears in the early hours, cutting through the waves with impossible grace. They call him the Ghost of the Break, a spectral rider who watches over the surf and guides those brave enough to face the waves. To this day, no one knows if it's truly Billy Ryder or just a figment of people's imagination. But the legend endures. Young surfers still come to the break, hoping to catch a glimpse of him, inspired by the tales of the man who lived for the ocean, who rode the biggest waves and who became one with the sea. And so, when the waves swell high and the sea grows dark, they say it's Billy Ryder, returning to ride one more time, his spirit forever bound to the ocean he loved. Thank you for joining me.
Hello again. As we come to a close, remember to like, subscribe, and follow us so you don't miss a single adventure. Thank you for spending this heartfelt moment with us. Until next time, we hope this story brought you a little peace as the day comes to a close.